Welcome to the Noble Insight podcast. I am honored today to have Mr. Matt Mosley on with me from Grafted Strategies. Matt, where are you calling in from today?
Yeah, hey, Josh, happy to be here. I'm here just south of Raleigh in Holly Springs, North Carolina.
That is a hotbed of intellect and entrepreneurship, isn't it?
Yeah, it's grown a ton. There's a lot of businesses coming to the area, so yeah, it's a great place.
I remember when I first moved there, like a local Raleigh guy, I was in Australia and he was looking at the neighborhoods for me. And he's like, Holly Springs. And that's all just chicken farms out there, I thought. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
When you're in Raleigh, everything else outside of the loop was just, rural and out in the sticks.
yeah. In the
But
last 15 years, it's grown a ton. But that's what they said like 20 years ago. It was just nothing out here.
Yeah, that's the place to be for sure. But you didn't grow up in North Carolina. You were up north, weren't you?
Yeah, I grew up in Pennsylvania. Spent a lot of my life in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Man,
Yeah.
historic as well. Holy cow.
Yeah, lots of history in that town, of course, and I think growing up in that area, you don't spend, I don't know, with all the tourists coming in and stuff, you don't always spend that much time. I think a lot of people in that area might not appreciate the history as much as some of the people outside it. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of history there for sure.
And then you didn't go to school in Pennsylvania, right? You went elsewhere?
Yeah, I went to college in Utah at Brigham Young University.
And what did you study?
Yeah, I studied manufacturing engineering technology. Kind of funny because I went to school originally for computer science. I had done in high school. I had done like this this program that they had introduced for Cisco training, and so I took that as like an elective for a couple of years, and never got like certified with my CCNA or anything, but that was kind of the end goal at the time in high school. And I was like, okay, I like this. Then I went and served a church mission for a couple of years. And when I came back and went to college, I saw that I had been accepted and declared as computer science for my major. And I was like, computer science? I kind of was like, why did I do that? And so I took a bunch of different courses, just trying to see what I liked. A mentor of mine growing up suggested that I look into the manufacturing engineering program they had there, and I took the first course in it, the entry course, and I loved it. It was about process improvement, lean manufacturing, and it kind of hooked me in, and so I did that as my major, and yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So your mission, really quick, where did you serve your mission?
Yeah, I was in Argentina. I was in Buenos Aires for a couple of years.
Okay.
They speak Spanish down there, so learn Spanish. A little bit of a twisted Spanish. They call it Castellano. They speak with an informal U called vos instead of tú. And so they conjugate their verbs differently. And just in being a different region of the world, they use certain words that are different than, like Mexican Spanish or Spain Spanish. So yeah, it was amazing.
And then do you keep up on your Spanish?
Not nearly as well as I should. Yeah. So it's definitely become rusty. My vocabulary has shrunk a lot.
So you got in this space, right? You started going down that direction. And then what were your first few jobs out of college?
So the first thing I did out of college is I went and I worked for a company in Pennsylvania that refurbished Bradley fighting vehicles. So it was it was a military contractor. So their main bread and butter was the Bradley fighting vehicle, but they weren't making any new ones. Those are all just refurbished at this point. But then they did have some new bids on different vehicles and things that came out. So there were some new production as well. But yeah, I worked there as a process engineer for a few years on the advanced manufacturing side, and then switched over to the industrial engineering for a couple of years. Really enjoyed both of those opportunities. But at the time, things just weren't progressing. Military contracts had been going through kind of a lull. They had been shrinking their plant size for the entire time I had been there. It was kind of at a peak when I came in. And then, it was about half that size when I eventually decided to move on. And I moved on to a company called My Computer Career, where I went and ran operations for one of their campuses. They're an IT training school. ran operations for one of their campuses for a couple of years, and then they decided to have an online presence, and I got to get that up and running and then oversee that as it grew. But that's where I got introduced to Salesforce. And coming from a big manufacturing company where we used Oracle as our ERP, and to be honest, seemed very clunky. And then getting to use Salesforce as a CRM, which a lot of companies can also use as an ERP. Just night and day difference in the ease and the abilities, and what the user experience was like.
Right. And so you started working with sales. That was what year
Which year?
that you started using
When I started working
Salesforce?
with Yeah, so that was like 2014.
Okay. So
Yeah.
had they got into like Lightning at that point, or is it still
No, it was
early
still
days?
Classic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Very much using Classic, which, in a lot of ways was great. Lightning definitely has its perks once you get into it. But for those who used Classic for a long period of time, I know many of them didn't want to switch.
Yeah.
Just because it worked and you knew where everything was, and
Yeah.
navigation seemed easy.
Yeah. So you started using that, and I assume that they were they using the CRM at the time, or were they using like a sales cloud, or what were you using there? What kind of modules?
Yeah, so it was mainly focused on Sales Cloud, but we had done a lot of customization on the operations side so that it could do, it kind of tracked all of the students' progress. We used it as a record keeper as well. At one point it was even being used for our HR system, Salesforce itself. Eventually we moved on and integrated then with some other, software.
Okay. All right. So that began your affair with Salesforce, and then so what are you doing now?
Yeah, so now, I was there for a little over 9 years, and then, I was looking to do more with Salesforce, and talked to one of my friends that I had made when I was working at My Computer Career, who was our Salesforce developer, and just asked him, hey, do you have opportunities? Do you know of anything? And he's like, hey, yeah, we're always looking to bring on people. So, talked with him and talked with some of the guys at Grafted Strategies, and then I started working with Grafted Strategies. And so I run operations and client success here, but really I get to do a lot of or a little bit of everything, which is great. That's something that I enjoy doing. Since leaving the big company many years ago, and working for some smaller companies and mid-sized companies, where you get to have your hands involved in a lot more things. So yeah, I get to meet with clients. I do our project management. And then I get to also work on a lot of the technical solutions. So I don't do a lot of the like the Apex coding, but Salesforce has to come out with a tool that most people are familiar with at this time called Flow, which when I first was introduced to it, it was like, oh, I'm used to process flow charts, and that's exactly what it looks like on paper, and then you just kind of get used to what the different components do and how to use them. It was just very logical to me and how it worked, and then making sure that you get your filter and criteria is right for when the automations run, and you're all set. So yeah, I get to do that, and then of course run the company as far as the operations side of what we do.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So what type of I guess when you're working with clients for Grafted now, so you were an operator, now you're working for a company that the problems that they probably have, and you can help go in and see how to optimize those and make those work a little smoother for them using the right tool set with Salesforce. So what do you think, like when you have a conversation with your clients, like what are the biggest problems that they're looking to try to get solved that Salesforce manages for them?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And it really can vary. So automation, I think, is a big one. People want to be able to do more with less clicks, with less time. And so that's where AI is coming into this at this point, where a lot of companies are like, hey, what can AI do for us? Besides that, there's just lots of things that companies want to integrate. They want systems to be integrated. We're really good at that, using APIs to bring in information or cause things to happen in other systems, or within Salesforce when something happens from an external trigger. Integrations are a big thing that we work on. There's a lot of companies that want help with their marketing solutions and their communication, whether that's using a system that Salesforce product like Pardot or Marketing Cloud or some sort of external system. We've done lots of different marketing solutions there. And then we have quite a few clients that we work with on a regular basis who are just looking to improve and add automations. And so that's where we get to help them with Flow, that tool I talked about earlier that Salesforce has. And Flow has become so powerful over the years that you can do most things with Flow now and you don't need custom Apex code. There are certain things still where it's better to use a trigger and to go with Apex, but we're even finding that you can build a small Apex solution at this point that you can pull into Flow. So you can launch it from a trigger that you have in Flow instead of doing it all in Apex.
So give me an example of that. So can you just walk me through a scenario where you've rolled out Flow and like what exactly it does that you'd have to code in the past for?
Yeah. So I think the areas that Flow has devolved in that you now can do with Flow instead of Apex. One of those big ones is when you have Salesforce get a group of records, for instance, maybe accounts based on a certain criteria, and it then holds these accounts. You then tell it to loop through them and to perform an action like update the record, but you need to update it within the loop, which before you didn't really want to do that in Flow. Update a record based on a decision, that it comes into a record is changed, then we set up Flow so that it can say, okay, is this value marked as yes? The record was changed, and so it's marked as true. The box is checked type thing.
Yes.
And so then it will go through, and then it might find the account from that contact, and it might change a field there that marks, a certain value that's important to them then based on what changed on that contact record. But yeah, you can do that with all kinds of things in Flow. So,
Nice.
And something like that can be done in less than half an hour at times.
Yeah.
Whereas when we did things in Apex, when you bring in all the testing and things and the way that it has to be done in a sandbox and then deployed, it just takes more time. Some of the metadata tools we have for deployment work very quickly, especially with Flow. So you don't have to build out a test class or anything. You can just debug it right in the automation itself, and then it's ready to go.
Wow. Okay, cool. And then as far as you've probably seen a lot of situations with clients that were using Salesforce, but they were using it inefficiently, or they may be, the implementation didn't go very well the first time, or they tried to do it themselves, or, whatever the scenario is, you probably walked into something like, oh my gosh, you're not getting the most out of Salesforce. So what are some ways that companies are maybe not using Salesforce correctly that you could help people fix?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think, man, you can run into tons of different ways in which companies aren't using it correctly, just because, the great part about Salesforce is it's so customizable. And so you can do, after you have it and, and you open the hood, really, you can pull out all the parts that you want or throw a whole bunch of things in there that can cause some problems.
Sure.
A big area is automation in general, like Flow. Like if you have somebody that doesn't know what they're doing and they have that automation triggering at times where it shouldn't, then it can really bog down your system and it can update records that it shouldn't update. You might be trying to run 10 different automations when a record is saved, when really only one should be running, but the triggers weren't set up correctly. You didn't filter your criteria for how to run that automation in an efficient way.
Got it. Okay. And then what about like AI now? How are you seeing AI play a role in what you guys are helping customers with?
Yeah, so we're finding, a lot of customers are interested in seeing, what capabilities are out there. We haven't personally had a lot of clients move to Salesforce's Agentforce yet, but that's okay. It's still kind of in the the early on phases for a lot of companies as they're figuring out what it can do. But, being involved in some of the conferences and things that Salesforce has done and kind of shown the capabilities of it, it's really quite powerful at this point. I think there's a lot of use cases for companies if they'd be willing to spend the time to look into it, to talk about it and see what opportunities, they can benefit from. But yeah, one thing, for instance, that we saw at the Salesforce conference was just how you can, for instance, you might pull up an account, right? Say you're a salesperson and you want to find some information about one of the accounts that you're working with. You can use the AI to kind of help you gather information relevant to that company, kind of like, all right, what are their biggest challenges? Who are their biggest competitors? What might they be interested in right now? And the AI can help you with that. It can also, you can tell it, hey, group, give me my 10 largest opportunities by, in this region. You can kind of just tell it to do that. You don't have to be able to go in and write a report. That's not everybody's forte, is to be able to go in to the reporting and be like, okay, this is exactly what I'm looking for. I know how to work the criterias, to set the filters so that I get what I'm looking for. Instead, you can now work with your AI agent, who's kind of like your assistant, to say, hey, give me this information. I want to see these opportunities and I want to see them ranked in this order, grouped by this category, and you just tell it and it will go and figure it out for you and then give you a report.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
what you could do.
Yeah, it's really
I mean, I remember working with Salesforce, I think almost every company I've worked at, we've had Salesforce to some degree or fashion. And to pull data out you had to be a reports expert.
Yeah.
Because you go in and you're like, okay, give me this criteria, filter by this. All right, give me all this stuff, export to a spreadsheet. Then now I can manipulate a little easier, but
Yes.
in Salesforce, I could like change the columns, I try to get what I wanted. I got 1,500 accounts. Which ones do I need to focus on today? But now it's just like, which accounts have slipped their stock by 10% in the last 3 months? Because of X reason or whatever. And then you can get a list. Okay, great. Then give me the 4 best decision makers from each of these accounts and give me the top 3 problems that they're probably facing in that particular role. And then I can go start a campaign for that.
Yeah.
It's almost that simple, right? It's almost that straightforward.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it is quite amazing what it can do at this point, and the information that it can give you just at the drop of a hat, right? Just you tell it a command and it can give it to you.
Yeah, there are many new data centers chugging away, burning oil to run those AIs for Salesforce, no doubt. Where do you, so Grafted is doing a lot of great work for some companies. Where do you kind of see Grafted's next big step in the market?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think to that point, I mean, AI, right? Like most companies are starting to become interested in it, and seeing what it can do and how it can use Salesforce's AI, but maybe even how it can use external tools. There's some great ones that when it comes to AI and automation, like N8N, that we have clients using to do things in the background and then pull it into Salesforce. Maybe they don't want to use everything that Salesforce has, so they're looking for other opportunities. So AI is a big one, right? Automation in general, we're super good with that. Very experienced with Flow. We've built thousands of them at this point and know what to do, how to set those up so they're efficient and they achieve the goal. Integrations. Any company that's looking for integrations, we're really good at pulling in the API that exists for those software solutions that they're currently using and then bringing them into Salesforce.
Okay.
But yeah, and then, one of the big industries that we are working with at the moment is healthcare.
Okay.
With Salesforce's Health Cloud. So we've really kind of expanded what we're doing there and, are really familiar with the capabilities at this point.
Great.
So there's that. There's, of course, Service Cloud. A lot of companies have moved into Salesforce's new enhanced messaging, and there's a lot going on, a lot that you can do with Omni Studio and field service. And so, yeah, that's another area that we are working in at the moment and looking to expand in.
Okay. And then basically it's world domination is what you're looking to do. No,
Yeah, that's the funny thing. I mean, Salesforce they have so many products. They're always bringing in new things, and, we're familiar with most of them.
Mhm.
We don't work every day with all of them, but yeah, I mean, there's so many of them. But yeah, I mean, there's a solution for anything pretty much at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I spent a few years at a company where we were a Salesforce partner on the Salesforce Commerce Cloud side.
Yeah.
But back when it was Demandware, and then they were acquired, and then we
Oh,
became
wow. Yeah.
Marketing Cloud and Commerce Cloud, and then they bought. Why the names all escape me now? A B2B e-commerce platform. I'm trying to think of it. They bought that a few years ago, and that became part of the solution. I know. So Eric Murata was the head of product there. He's going to kick me because I can't remember the name of the original company. But yeah. So they just acquire great products that fit the whole, the cloud piece. I was talking to Jimmy, your CEO,
Yeah.
this earlier this week, and that was kind of thing that we were talking about. I remember this sticker back in like 2000, 2001 timeframe that our company had on our office fridge, and it was basically this cookie that said software on it, and it had a bite taken out of it. And it's because that was kind of Salesforce's big push, 25 years ago was, yeah, we're going to, take a bite out of software. We're going to put all this on the cloud. You don't have to have software anymore. And
Yeah.
everyone's like, you're crazy, right? You're going to have software. And Salesforce always seems like they've been pushing that boundary.
Hmm.
And now
Yeah, for sure.
they're just like, they're becoming like this, I don't know what you want to call it. It's almost like the ERP for the office. It's not like for your financials anymore. It's just like for every
Mhm.
other operation that happens within the organization. It's like Salesforce touches it. How you engage with your customers externally, work with your partners, how you manage your projects, how you deal with customer service issues and escalations and tickets. And
Yep.
I know I'm only like just scratching the surface on all that, but they're just kind of, it's almost like they do everything except necessarily the ERP. And I'm sure they're probably going to move into that space as well. So they're going to own the entire enterprise from front to back.
Yeah, no, it really is. Man, it's amazing how it's grown and everything that they can do. But yeah, they've got a solution, like you said, pretty much for everything. Um,
Yeah.
Usually customer focused, but I mean, they've got everything for the internal customers
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. It's definitely moving that way. I think the only thing that Mark Benioff is missing is I don't think he's built a rocket ship yet, has he?
No, he's a little behind in that
Yeah.
race,
What's going on? I think that this could be his play because all of his new buildings look like spaceships.
right?
So they just all might just take off someday and just,
That's very true. They're all towers, so yeah, they who knows what's going on underground there.
yeah, that's right. Um, Matt, I can't thank you enough for hopping on and talking about your company with me. I really appreciate that. I'm excited to see what you guys are going to accomplish. So how can people find out more about Grafted Strategies?
Yeah, no, thanks, Josh. It's been great being on with you. So we've got a website, graftedstrategies.com, and we're on the Salesforce AppExchange. So
Well, let's talk about that a second.
we're on LinkedIn.
Yeah, tell me about what's
Yeah.
on the AppExchange.
Yeah, so the AppExchange will have our listings, our consulting company listings. So if somebody's wanting to go on the AppExchange and look for a consulting company, they could find us there. They're also going to find a couple of products
Yeah,
that we
let's
have.
talk about that. Yeah, what products
Yeah,
do you have
so
out
we've
there?
got a product. It's a form building product, but really, it's very. It can serve a lot of purposes. It's called Immensity Form, and so we have some companies that use it for capturing information from their website and bringing it back into Salesforce. But we also have companies that use it as a survey tool because it really is quite diverse in its capabilities and what you can do with the data when you bring it in from Salesforce too. So yeah, that's called Immensity Form. That's also on the AppExchange, and then our sister company, SalesReady, it's a quoting solution, but also a document generation and e-signature platform. And so it's kind of an all-in-one solution that we have a lot of companies that are interested in using at this point for sending documents, getting them signed, for generating quotes, getting them signed. And we've done some pretty cool things recently with that, where you can get interaction with the through Slack right within the document.
Nice.
So you can chat with them, if they have questions, if they want to see things changed, you don't have to resend the document. You can make the changes and then it will update for them on their end.
That's pretty slick.
Yeah, it really is.
You could get lost for days waiting for feedback and comments and explanations, and having that integrated in Slack, that's very cool.
Yeah, it makes it real easy.
Nice. All right. So you got products out there. All right, great. So, hey, Matt, thanks again. Everybody look out for Grafted Strategies taking over the world, at least the Salesforce world.
Awesome.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Josh. Yep. See ya.